Good evening, everyone. I am greatly honored to get this opportunity to oppose this motion because mainly of the reasons that Bill has mentioned, but I will zero down into really situation because I'm working at the grassroots and I have an experience with projects that are working. I oppose this motion because I've seen some examples of conflict. I've read about some conflicts that are going on in Kenya for the Masai Mara National Park, and you might have heard about it or read it in the news or wherever, but you can see how people are killing the animals. I know those animals are scaring, they are dangerous to people, but there are ways to work around that because the Masai have been part of that ecosystem for a long time. They've been living with lions, they've been living with the cats, but they knew how to handle them. But nowadays, they are killing them. Something must be wrong somewhere. Another example is from the Philippines, at the Kalawit Island. It's a game reserve and also a wildlife sanctuary where there is a lot and complex conflict going on in that place. In Tanzania, if I take that as an example, there are a number of conflicts going on in some national parks. And it's going on regardless of some efforts that are already taking place by the government itself and some other projects that are working on those areas. But just recently, I've heard about 10,000 people being displaced from the area they were living. And this is because they had encroached a forest somewhere where the government was preserving it. But why did these people go into that forest? Why? While the place was being preserved, and the government knew exactly, and the community maybe was involved or not involved, but these people went into the conserved area and lived. Now, we as a conservationist, we cannot keep a blind eye on the conflict that are going on because people are losing their lives, people are dying, people are physically injured, there are physical violence, there are loss of source of living and therefore poverty among people. People have lost pride and dignity. They lose freedom and environment to practice religions. This is very dangerous. As we can all agree, human-wildlife conflicts, just as other conflicts, are very dangerous and they are obstacles to wildlife conservation, but also to human development. In West Tanzania, for example, where I come from, we work with the community that are living around the national park, Gombe National Park, where chimpanzees are also living. It's a place where very few animals are left, and they are endangered, as we all know. But before the Gombe National Park was declared as a national park, people used to coexist with those animals. They were living together somehow, although they were not going into the same house and live there, but they were somehow interacting. And they continued like that until the government saw that we have to keep people away from conservation. We have to keep people away from the animals. When the area was then declared as a national park, people were forced out of that area. And they went outside of the demarcated area where the population there was already very high and the land was degraded, the forest was gone, but they had to squeeze themselves. They had to get used to that kind of life. They went into the villages that are surrounding the national park, and the life wasn't really convincing. And in those villages, they were struggling for arable land to farm. The village forests were depleted, soil had lost fertility, and they had the highest population growing rate in the country. But these people had also very poor social services and infrastructures. Now, because of this situation, what do you expect they would do? Well, they would do if they see an animal coming off that park? they would kill it. They killed them for either meat or for rituals or for whatever, or even just kill them because they have taken their right away. Because that place where they are protected is where they used to live. And if one chimpanzee would get sick, doctors would fly from all over the world just to attend that sick chimpanzee. But the community there had no health services. They had to walk a long distance to get health services, and people were dying. Now, in 1990s is when a project started, a project of the Jane Goodall Institute that is called Takare. That's the project that I'm working for. And the project started in order to take care of the needs the community had, the rights of the community, to make sure that the community sees the benefit of conserving those animals, and the animals also brings back benefit to the community. We started projects like planting trees, because these people would go into the national park and cut down the trees because they needed that. The patrol would maybe kill them today, but if they don't get that wood to cook their food, they will die tomorrow because they don't have food. So it wasn't an issue to them. They would go into the national park and do whatever they want to do. But we started that project to plant trees and help them have another source of wood instead of depending on that conserved area. We also started rejuvenating their soil, a project that convinced them and trained them on the methods that they could use in farming that would bring back the soil fertility and make them have enough for food that they need. We also brought in health services, dispensaries closer to the people where they can get treated in case of diseases. But on the other hand, because these people were farmers for coffee and other subsistence farming, we could find a market for them that was attached with a conservation story for the chimpanzee. And so the coffee that these people are growing nowadays receives the highest price than any other coffee in Tanzania. So after that, these people started to see the benefit. They would see that because we are conserving these chimpanzees is why we are getting a better price for our products. Because we are conserving these chimpanzees is why we are getting these services. Now, nowadays when they see a chimp, they don't kill that anymore. They become part of the conservation process. They would take it back to the park or just let it wander around. And recently, these people, the communities around that national park, sat down and did their land use planning. And when they sat down and analyzed their needs and the land that they had as a village, they realized that they could even give out another land for conservation and allow that chimpanzee would come and range in that place. So I believe that if planned properly, there is room enough for everyone. We can ensure that there is space for both humans and wildlife needs. This is not possible without the local community's involvement and willingness, especially in countries where land is owned communally. Educating people the importance of conserving wildlife and then how this wildlife would bring back economic and social benefits is the best way to go through conservation. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to oppose this motion and ask you all with this example, and I'm sure there are some of this kind in other places as well, I would like you to vote against this motion. Thank you very much.